Hello everybody and welcome to Grumpy and Shadow Show.
I'm Grumpy.
And I'm Shadow.
And today we're talking The Walking Dead, Season 7, Episode 2, The Well. So let's get to it. The good news for the fans still recovering from last week's emotional episode. This week, much lighter, with much less violence, and even a few laughs sprinkled throughout the episode.
It was, it was definitely a much later episode. Started off with Carol being taken by some of the knights from the kingdom and Morgan to get medical attention. And we see her cart turn over with a horse and she starts hallucinating.
Yeah, she starts hallucinating just before she was saved by additional kingdom members.
Yeah, she was hallucinating. They got attacked by walkers and somehow she got separated from the group rather intentionally, I believe, because of her hallucinations. She wasn't sure what she was seeing, so she got separated from the group, ended up at that house, and in my opinion was about to be overwhelmed with the walkers when Morgan and some of the other members of the kingdom, some other fighters, came to her rescue and took down all the walkers. Now it was pretty gruesome, I have to admit. The one walker whose face just melted off with the sword was awesome.
And if it wasn't for that, we would have had another dead person.
Oh, absolutely.
Episode, you know?
Absolutely. So then Morgan and Carol go with the others to the kingdom to get the medical attention and meet King Ezekiel,
who has a tiger.
Yeah, that was a really good job they did on the CGI, I think.
I think that was an awesome looking tiger.
Yeah.
Really awesome looking.
Now, the kingdom is kind of strange to Carol. People in the kingdom seem overly friendly, like there's nothing going on in the outside world. But Carol is still suspicious.
Actually, they were so friendly because you compare to other episodes that they were so friendly. I kind of wondered if they were really friendly like they seem to be.
Or if it was some kind of front.
Or some kind of front. You know, you just didn't know, but obviously they seemed pretty friendly all throughout the episode.
Yeah, well, Carol felt the same way you did, so she wanted to get the hell out of there ASAP. She was ready to go the minute she found out that there was a king and a tiger. So she starts making her plans for her escape. She tells Morgan she's going to leave. And Morgan's telling her, nah, not on my watch.
So what she does is, she kind of sneaks, gets some supplies, steals a knife off the table. I think she took something else also.
Some clothes off of another table.
Yeah.
And she's ready to bolt. In the meantime, we got some of the knights going with King Ezekiel and Morgan on a mission.
A secret mission.
And the mission was to round up pigs. Pigs. Now, I had initially thought they were rounding them up so they could bring them back to the kingdom and, have them for food or whatever.
But what I found really strange was that there were some walkers dead on the ground and the pigs were eating them.
Yeah, well, what we found out was this one knight had plans and he was feeding the pigs walkers, which brought us both to the same question of, well, won't that contaminate the food so that, our people can't eat him? We later found out what it was really for. This same knight seemed to have a big problem with Morgan. I don't know if it was just his natural attitude or that he just didn't like Morgan for some reason, but it seemed to be a little bit of friction between the two of them.
Well, if you remember way back when Abraham kind of had an attitude too, and he kind of changed a lot, so, he may change, who knows?
Right. So they leave where the pigs are. They load them onto a truck. They leave where the pigs are. Now the one knight is taking the pigs in a different direction. Morgan questions this with the king, and King just basically says he's going somewhere else, making it seem like a big secret. We later find out that it was to give to Negan.
Negan half of whatever they have,
Right. His plan, which I think is brilliant, was to give Negan and the Saviors the tainted meat in hopes that it made them all sick or dead.
That's like a chemical warfare.
Yeah, I mean, it's a brilliant move, and if anyone actually fell for the king and the kingdom thing, you wouldn't think that they would have the, you know, the wherewithal to anticipate ahead what would what's going to happen.
I just hope he doesn't make Rick and the others eat the pig before, or eat the pork before that.
Well, see, that's the thing. I don't think Negan shares what he gets. So he gets it. It's going to be for him and his men. He's not going to bring it to another village or another community and say, I want you to try this first. He's going to say, this is ours. We earned this. We collected it. We're going to eat it. And that is very dangerous.
So we also know that Morgan's he's training a young warrior for the king. Like Yoda, Morgan is guiding the young knight.
Seems like King Ezekiel is impressed with Morgan's fighting skills. And not only his fighting skills, but his level of restraint that he can show. And he wants him to train this young warrior because he's not picking up as fast as the others want him to, and he just seems to be a little scared or hesitant to even approach the walkers.
Well, he was hesitant because in the episode here they were training how to kill walkers, so they had some walkers, and he was kind of hesitant. He didn't really know how to kill them, so he wants this young man to probably survive and not get killed himself, so he wants him to learn how to defend himself.
Well, what I had gotten from the whole episode was that seems like King Ezekiel took a special interest in this boy for some reason. I'm not sure what the reason is yet, and really wants him to succeed, wants to make him part of his inner circle, I think. And in order to do that, he has to show, that he can handle himself. So, he enlists Morgan's help in training this kid, almost the same way that Morgan was trained when he took up the philosophy not to kill. So, he's training him. The kid seems to be picking up quite a bit. So they take a break, and Morgan goes to check on Carol to find her gone.
Finds her gone, and then Ezekiel finds her in the garden. And at that time they have like a heart-to-heart talk. And Ezekiel also tells the story of that he was a zookeeper and how he found the tiger,
and how he was an actor, and he's portraying a king because that's what the people need to have hope.
because there's a lot of evil outside the kingdom, and he kind of admits that it's kind of fantasy inside the kingdom, but it gives the people hope. Just like you said, it kind of maybe helps them feel secure.
But the good part is, when he had this heart-to-heart with Carol, he kind of dropped all the airs. He didn't have, he didn't speak in the same...
He wasn't pretending anymore.
Right, I mean, he sounded like a guy from Chicago, not a king in the middle of the zombie apocalypse. He was a real person. He broke it down the way it should have been broke down to Carol, and Carol kind of got that. Now, when he found Carol in the garden, you have to remember, he found her stealing some of the fruit. So he dismissed his bodyguard, and they had a really no bullshit level talk. It's, you can fool them, but you can't fool me. And she's telling him he's a joke, and he's telling her, I can see right through you, baby. You ain't as all innocent as you're playing yourself out to be. Now you can either cut the crap and we can, help each other, or you can keep up this fantasy and, or this lie that you're living, and just wander around with nothing and no one.
You know what? Even though Carol still seemed to want to leave, it seems like she was kind of listening to him, and it seems like maybe he kind of got through to her a little bit.
Well, it's funny because he turned around and he said, he made up some bullshit. He's like, you can go and not go. If that makes any sense. But yeah, so he said he made an agreement with her that he would have someone escort her to the gate, and then she could go or not go.
It was like, don't let the door hit you in the ass on the way out, but the door's open if you want to come back.
Well, it was more like you can leave and not leave. You can kind of be here but not be here. It was kind of a duplicitous type of statement where, it's like do or not do, there is no try. He's telling her, you're either going to leave or you're going to leave, but you're going to stay here. You're going to stay with us as a group. So what ends up happening is Morgan is the one the king picks, which was kind of surprising to me. I thought he was just going to pick, one of his knights. He picked Morgan to escort her.
So they get on the horses, they get to the gate, and they say, their goodbyes, and then next thing we know, Carol's in that little house where she saw where she was hallucinating, where that old lady all of a sudden turned into a walker.
In the
next
window.
thing you know, she's cleaning up where the tombstones are, the cemetery.
Well, what she had done was she had killed that walker in the house and then buried her in the yard.
Right.
Because at that point, I think this is Carol saying, I don't have to be the badass that I was. I can be a normal person. And she started seeing these walkers as people. If you noticed in her hallucinations, they all turned into real live people.
As they were killed.
Right. So she had lost that connection, and she had just regained her humanity, so to speak. So when she killed this walker to take the house, she buried her in the yard.
So she's lighting a fire. I'm sure it's probably getting a little cold. Then she hears a knock on the door, which to me it looked like, look, holy shit, who's out there? So next thing you know, she opens the door, and there's the king with the fruit in his hand.
Offering her a pomegranate that he had mentioned to her before.
Which she said she didn't like.
But they had a strange, like I said, they had a heart-to-heart talking. On some level they connected because she seemed not unhappy to have a visitor.
It's like a pleasant surprise, I think.
Now, next week, we saw the coming attractions, and it seems to be a very Daryl-heavy episode. It's going to deal with Daryl at Sanctuary, and all the efforts by Negan and his group to break Daryl. And one of the things that we see is basically Negan telling him, you're a very stubborn person. You're very difficult to break down. Meaning that Daryl has a lot of willpower and is not going to go silently into the night. So that'd be interesting to see how that all works out with the new environment of the Savior's community, of the Sanctuary. We've seen Alexandria as a regular, everyday town that we're all used to. We've seen the Hilltop as kind of a rustic, maybe Western type theme to it, where they went back to the blacksmiths and, they're living in, probably around the Civil War, a little less time period. We have the Kingdom, which is going back to the medieval times. And then we have the survivors, or I'm sorry, the Saviors and the Sanctuary. It'd be interesting to find out what period they've pulled their inspiration from. But we'll find out all that next week. Right now, we saw tonight, Morgan had told the young knight that at one point he chose his path and he was wrong. Do you think that means that Morgan is going to go back to killing, or is he going to find the middle ground and only kill when it's absolutely necessary? Or maybe he'll stay with his philosophy of all life is precious, although he seems to be backpedaling on that now. So I'd like to hear your thoughts and opinions. You leave them in the comment section below. Also, don't forget you can join us on Twitter and Facebook, which the addresses are in the description. And with that, I'd like to say good night.
And thanks for watching.